The drawback to this one device, the hackrf, is that it's only half duplex, and so that's a drawback to it. If you want to send and receive simultaneously, the hackrf is not going to work for you. So in our case here, we don't want to both send and receive. We're just basically, in this case, sending. But if you had to send and receive, you're probably going to have to move into a more expensive device. The advantage of the hackrf is that, one, it can send and receive, but also that it covers a much broader range of the spectrum than, say, the RTL SDR. It'll go up to 6 gigahertz. I've got them on the website Hackers Arise. I've got a comparison of all the SDR devices there. And you can look at the various specifications and the prices for them. But this is the one that we're going to be using in class. It's inexpensive, relatively inexpensive. I know $300 is a lot for some folks, but when you're talking about SDR and you're talking about being able to do the things that we can do with this device, it's really a small investment, especially when you start comparing it to the high-end devices that are running $3, $5, $10,000. Now, for just listening, the RTL SDR is great. Okay, we used it to be able to identify where the key fob was transmitting.
And that's how you got your 3150 E6, right?
Exactly.
Like the X2, E6, Y10, that kind of stuff you just have to learn. It's like there's the waveform. You just have to know that. Is that right? Is that something you can just learn by taking your class or documentation or something?
From documentation, taking the class, either one or both, right?
Yeah.
So the Y is the waveform. So here we got the X and the Y are the waveforms, the waveform frequency, and this one works pretty well for these key fob signals. Now, so that's simply jamming signals, and jamming signals can be useful. I mean, you might think of it as just like a DOS attack. A DOS attack is a very simple attack. What you're doing is you're simply just throwing out random stuff into the airwaves to be able to block a signal from being able to communicate. All right. Let's look at then an attack against what's called a replay attack. There's man in the middle attacks you can do in TCP/IP, Wi-Fi attacks that allow for replay attacks. So what we're going to be doing is very similar. What we're going to do is capture the signal and then be able to replay it. There's a lot of different ways to do this, depending on what software you're using. Since we're using the hackrf and we're using the Dragon OS, it's pretty simple to do. If you're using some of the other software, basically what you have to do is record and then send. And once again, it requires a SDR device that's capable of transmitting. So if you're using the hackrf, we can just use a command line. Most of the other software devices are all kind of GUI based, but hackrf has some nice command line tools that make it straightforward and simple, all right, to be able to do this attack. So we can go transfer, okay, hackrf transfer -S, and then the bandwidth comes first, and then the frequency 315.500.000, and then we'll call this we'll call it Mr. Robot. So what it's going ahead and it's capturing the signal at that frequency. I'm going to stop it. So this is the command right here to capture what's going on at that frequency. This is the frequency that our key fob is working at. So once we've captured it, then we can go ahead and send it out, and that's what we're going to be doing next.
Does it say caught signal 2? That's where you press the button, is that right?
Yeah, that's where I did a control C. It says here, stop with the control C.
Did you actually press your button on your key fob and then capture it?
I didn't. I'm just showing the process.
Okay, yes. Yeah, no worries.
I could do it. Let's do it I'll do it that way. So let's go here and let's go ahead and send the key fob out. And so it's capturing my key fob now. Okay, I'm sending out the signal. Control C to stop it. And then now that I've captured it, it's pretty simple. I can just go -S. And then the bandwidth we want to send it out on, the frequency 315500000, and the file is going to be Mr. Robot -A1, and then we're going to send it out transfer with 24. Okay, it sent it out. And if the car was close enough, it would have opened the door. And of course, assuming that the vehicle is vulnerable to a replay attack. These are going to be on older vehicles and including Honda-made vehicles till about 2020. If you're close enough to capture the signal and then replay the signal in a vehicle that doesn't change the passcode, then you open the vehicle. On more modern vehicle, more secure vehicles, they've gone ahead and made it a little harder to do, but it can still be done. So what they've now done is they put in like a rolling code. So the password changes each time the user clicks on the key fob. And the way that that can be broken is that you have to first jam the first signal, because it sends two signals. Jam the first signal, capture it, and then when the user goes ahead and sets the next time, the next click through, the next signal, capture that. Those two signals together, you can go ahead and determine the algorithm that's generating the numbers, and then go ahead and essentially do a replay attack. It's a little more complicated. It takes a little social engineering, because imagine that if you were the person and the first time you clicked and you didn't hear the door open, you had to click again. So what you've now done is you've clicked it twice and your car still hasn't opened, maybe 3 times. You might start to wonder, but this is probably the best approach to be able to get into more secure vehicles with the rolling code. I recently was testing another car, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. I was testing another car, and it's sending out spread spectrum, which to me seems like the most secure technology. But I'm surprised that not everybody's using it. That's going to be a little more difficult to be able to hack, but it still can be done. It's just a little more difficult. And that's it's the whole thing of this chess game between security and hackers. The hackers develop a method to break a security, and then the manufacturers come up with a better security, and then they come up with a better way of hacking it, and then they come up with better security. So right now it looks to me like spread spectrum, which I haven't seen anybody else write about yet online. I may be the only one doing research in that field right now. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else is. But spread spectrum appears to be state of the art in terms of security. The BMWs and the Mercedes are all using this rolling code, which can be broken, okay, by basically jamming and then capturing the signal. And we'll give Sammy Kankar a shout out there, because he's the one who figured that one out. That technology is now being built into some of the new devices, hacking devices for hacking cars. Okay, so that's how to get in the door. Or maybe you can start the vehicle too. If they have an auto start, you can capture the remote start and be able to send it out. On many of these vehicles, the signal between remote start and door opening are very similar. Sometimes all you got to do is flip a couple bits in the signal and you can start the vehicle as well. In Mr. Robot, after they get inside the vehicle, of course, the vehicle's not running. We see Mobley opening up his laptop, and he connects the laptop directly into the ODB2 connector. ODB2 connector, I'll show you a picture of it, is the connector that's under the dashboard where, say, your mechanic will connect into the network. That's what it looks like under your dashboard. So your mechanic will go ahead, or you can too, connect into this with a device. You can buy them in an auto parts store for about $50, $100. And what it does is it connects into the network of the vehicle and will read the codes. So if, for instance, if your check engine light's on, and you got to go pay somebody to go find out, you can buy these devices for like $50 to plug into the ODB2 connector under your dashboard, and it'll tell you what's wrong with your car. It's not always, the end of the world. I mean, oftentimes those lights will come on just because a sensors failed. But in any case, this is the ODB2 connector. That's what they're connecting to under the dashboard. Okay, so this is what he's using, 924. All he's doing is connecting his laptop to the ODB2 connector. And you can also get them that have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, so you don't have to necessarily use a wire, and that allows you to do it remotely. But then once you're connected into the car's network, then all things are possible. Okay. We talked earlier in one of the earlier videos about SCADA hacking, and the SCADA networks are very similar to the car networks. They're different than what we're accustomed to using in terms of TCP/IP and Ethernet. They're generally serial, they're lightweight, there's no authentication, okay, there's no encryption. Once you're inside the vehicle, then everything's available to you once you plug into the network. Now, some vehicles actually are using Wi-Fi to connect their networks from different devices. And so you may not even have to connect to the ODB2 connector. You might be able to connect right into the Wi-Fi and be able to do what we're going to do next. All right, so what we're doing is I'm going to show you a little bit of car hacking research. Let's go to my Kali here. There's a number of tools that you need to acquire to be able to do any research in car hacking. And most of these tools came out of research at Volkswagen, Volkswagen's kind of been one of the leaders in security research, although their vehicles are almost as susceptible as everybody else's. They've put together some good tools to analyze. So what we need are a number of tools that are called the socket CAN or CAN utilities, and we got to go ahead and download those. Let's go sudo apt install CAN utils. CAN is the name of the type of network that are inside of vehicles, right? So these are CAN utilities, or socket CANs often referred to. These are simply utilities for working in the car network. Tells me it's already been installed. Imagine that. Okay.
You're prepared as always. Yep.
Now, if we've plugged into the car ODB2 connector like Mobley has, that's all basically we need to do. But in our case, we're not connected. We're some distance from a vehicle. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a simulator. And those of you who are into car hacking may be familiar with Craig Smith, wrote a book from No Starch Press called, I think it's called Car Hacking. Good book. It's a little bit dated, but he still has some good stuff in there. He put together a simulator. He teaches classes on car hacking. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and grab it. It's in GitHub. And it's a great little tool for being able to learn how to hack cars. And so it's going to be sudo git clone https. You can go ahead and do your research and learn about the CAN network without having to connect to a car. You can see it's coming up there on the screen. He goes by Zombie Craig, and it's going to be the ICS sim. I use this in my classes to teach people how to hack cars. It already exists, and it's not an empty directory. There you go. You've got the URL to be able to download it yourself. Then you want to go ahead and go to that directory. CD ICS sim. We're in that. We can go to ls-l. You can see there's a setup for the vcan right there. So we got to run that setup. I've already run it. I'm not going to go ahead and run it again. There's a couple things in there. We have the controls, we have data, we have the ICS sim. So what we need to do is just simply go and run our ICS sim. And the vcan 0, which is basically a CAN protocol interface. So it's basically we've created an interface that can talk to the CAN protocol. That's what this setup vcan does right here. So now we're going to go ahead and start the simulator. Open Garages is Craig Smith's organization. Then go ahead and start the controls.
It's great to have this, though, because it means you can practice without having to have a car. Yeah, brilliant.
It's kind of a, if you've ever done this, sitting in your car trying to work, it's kind of it makes it difficult to have classes, remote classes, and it's not always the most comfortable place to be able to sitting with your computer. So Craig put this together, and it works pretty good. Now, there have been some issues with setting this up. Now, some of the make files, they just don't work with some of the newer versions of Linux. So when I run class, I'm going to be using an older version. This particular speedometer here, I can get the speed, I can get this thing to accelerate and do everything it's supposed to do, but it doesn't show up on the speedometer. There's something that isn't quite connected there, but I've got most of the other issues worked out with it. Let's see, no controls. I got to go to the right directory, CD ICS sim. Then we can go and run the controls. And he's got it set up so it'll run off a game controller or your keyboard. And here's the game controller. It'll run off your keyboard as well. You use up arrow or right shift to do the doors. And then the last step is we've got to open up the CAN sniffer. CAN sniffer. Now, what this is very similar to Wireshark, but it's for the CAN protocol. So what I'm doing here is simply saying CAN sniffer. I'm invoking the CAN sniffer. I'm starting it. I'm executing the CAN sniffer. And I'm telling it to use color. That's what the -C is for. And then I got to tell it what interface to be able to sniff on, vcan 0. And then run it. You'll see this on the screen on his computer in Mr. Robot. And what he's doing is that he is sniffing the CAN network. These are all the commands that are going across the network. The idea here, if you're doing research in car hacking, is that you want to identify what command does what. One of the key issues in doing research on vehicles, there's little standardization. The CAN protocol is standardized, but the commands are not. If you know the command to say start the vehicle in one vehicle, it may not work in another vehicle. That's one of the issues that you're going to face. I think the vehicle in Mr. Robot is it's a Chrysler minivan. I kind of watched it up close and zoomed in to see what it was. It's an older Chrysler minivan. So to be able to start the vehicle, they're going to have to know what the command is and then be able to essentially do a replay attack. So you capture and then replay, very similar to what we did with opening the door, right? We've got these commands. Each one of these is a command with data attached to it. We can go ahead and capture a command as it goes across and then replay it on the same network.